or after Adam's presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to present our new director, Adam Traub.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for coming. And I just want to say this staff is the best library staff I could have hoped for. They have been so welcoming. They have helped put this all together. It was not without their helpful nudges that we are here today. So I can't thank them enough for both their participation, whether it's the centerpieces or Sue saying, hey, people want to hear from you. It is all helpful. So we really have an amazing staff here at the Webster Public Library. And I'm getting the signal that maybe you can't hear me. Test. 1, 2. How about now? Okay. Now I'm getting a thumbs up. Okay. So as Sue said, my name's Adam Traub. I'm the new director for the Webster Public Library. And many of you probably know that Terry Bennett retired at the end of last year. And I realized I'm walking away from the microphone on all of you. So again, I want to thank Sue for helping, put this together, getting the word out. This goes to all the staff. Like I said, they're really amazing. Please come in. Welcome. Hi. But I also just want to take a few minutes to make some acknowledgments. So I see that our town supervisor, Tom Flaherty's here. Thank you for coming, Tom. I appreciate all the support that you've given us. Ginny Nguyen, our town board liaison, is here too. Ginny, thank you so much for all the support you've been giving us. It's really important when you come on a new job to find those colleagues who are there to support you. And I can't say, oh, is that Patty? Hi, and Patty Cataldi. Hi, Patty, I didn't know you're coming. Hi, good to see you. Thank you. And it's really important to have kind of a coalition of the willing and supporters here. And so I could not be here without you all. Also, the Webster Public Library Board. Many of them are here today. I won't call them all out right now, but their names will be up here on the slide shortly. They are responsible for selecting and hiring a director. And I want to thank them for putting their trust with me to take care of this wonderful institution, to help the staff realize their potential. And I just can't say how humbling it is to be selected to lead this library. So again, to the board, thank you. I also want to thank Missy Rosenberry for doing a lovely interview with me with Webster on the Web. That was a great introduction. I hope to introduce you all to some other things in case you've already read that, so maybe you learn a little bit more about me that you haven't already read. And I know we have at least one, but do we have any retired or current Webster Central School District teachers in the house? I just want to thank the Webster Central School District teachers because I am a product of that school district. I graduated in '99. Sadly, my yearbook is behind the info desk. I was on yearbook, so I don't know what I was thinking when I put my picture in there. But I want to thank them for all the work that they've done, really without a strong public education system that schools and libraries are really in partnership with, we wouldn't be where we are as a society today. I think I mentioned I'd be remiss not to thank Terry Bennett for all of her work, who was my predecessor, that I really hope to continue her great work. And one more time, I just want to maybe give the staff a round of applause. Thank you to the Webster Public Library staff. There's one other person in the audience that I would kick myself if I didn't say anything about, because without her, none of this would be possible. Sorry, Mom. My mom's here today as well. I told you I grew up here. So, with that out of the way, a little bit more about me that you may want to know. I was born and raised here in Webster. I graduated from Schroeder, although it's always weird for me to say that because there was only one high school at the time. I went to undergrad at Nazareth College, and then I went to library school or graduate school at UB. My first job, I was a Wegmans kid at the Holt Road Wegmans, pushing carts and working the register, among other things. And the first library I worked at was actually Nazareth College as a work-study student. Professionally, I started working as a librarian at Strong Museum. Then I was at, let's see here, St. John Fisher, RIT, U of R. And then I decided to make the flip over to public libraries, and I started as the Associate Director of the Monroe County Library System. That's a library organization that supports all of the public libraries in Monroe County, and they're housed in the Rundle building downtown, right on the Genesee. I'll tell you a little bit more about the system later, because it's important to know kind of how that system supports public libraries, including this one. My wife and I recently moved, there she is right there, recently moved to Williamson with our 2 dogs, also pictured in that one, which we frequently call is the Weimaraner Retirement Home. They're 2 senior dogs. And you also see our new little nugget. This is Heidi. We had Heidi about a month ago. That's our first child. She's 4 weeks old yesterday, and she is keeping her parents up all night, just like every baby is supposed to. I also, would kind of wanted to mention, just so you know a little bit about me, there are certain things I'm fans of. I'm a fan of Ultimate Frisbee. I'm a fan of animals, cooking, audiobooks, and of course, my daughter. And in case you're wondering, I'm currently reading Fool's Quest by Robin Hobb. But enough about me. Many of you probably know, because I know that there are a lot of other people who are really interested in libraries, but this is a little bit about the Webster Public Library. We were founded in 1929. Now, if any of you are doing the math, that means our centennial is in 7 years. We are a municipal public library. That means we operate kind of like a department of the town. That also means that our budget comes from the town. Our budget, so our town board is appointed by the town of Webster. And they're a group of volunteers listed here. Unfortunately, not all of them could be here today, but I know some of them are out in the crowd, who help govern the library. So the director is entrusted to deal with the day-to-day operations and processes of the library, whereas the board is really focused on the governance and the fiduciary oversight to make sure that the director and the staff are kind of following what the town needs. Are we following applicable laws and things like that? And so they really provide oversight and governance and, if I'm completely honest, really great counsel in running a library. As I mentioned, our budget comes primarily from the town. We have a budget of about $2.2 million. That equates to about 73 cents per $1,000 of a home's assessed value. If you are a nerd like me and doing the math again, that means that it's about a little under $11 a month for the average house in Webster to support the library, or less than a Netflix subscription. However, we are also supported by 2 really important organizations. The Friends of the Webster Public Library are a 501c3 nonprofit that run, among other things, the lobby sale that you passed on your way in today, as well as a semi-annual book sale, which is happening May 12th through the 14th. I see our friends in the back there. These are volunteers, people who love the library so much that they come in and they sort through donations. And when I tell you they sort through donations, this organization supplies the library with about $50,000 a year in the money that they raise selling those books out there, selling the books at the annual book sale. And it would not be possible without a lot of love and time and energy that they spend with us. Similarly, we also have another nonprofit that supports us, the Foundation of the Webster Public Library, which was founded in 2010 with bequests from individuals in Webster who love their library. The foundation works with an endowment of sorts that generates income that equates to around $20,000 a year right now to help support the library. Now, again, if you're doing the math of that $2.2 million, that means we get about 3 to 4% of our annual income as, well, I like to call bonus money, but as money that the friends and the foundation who just love their library so much and put so much time and energy into to help support our staff, our programs, and our collections that we couldn't otherwise provide excellent service with. So I mentioned we're a member of the Monroe County Library System. You all, if you have an older card like me, it's just kind of a teal color, but if you have a newer library card, it's blue, and it has the arches of a bridge above the Genesee River. The Monroe County Library System is, I might call a consortium of sorts, or a state set-up consortium of the public libraries in Monroe County. They supply the internet and the delivery that we rely on. So if you all are a fan of holds, you get those holds because we're a member of that system, because those trucks come by 5 days a week, pick up the books from other libraries, and drop them off at their home libraries. So that means that you can get a library book or library material from any other library in the county delivered here to you. And similarly, you can drop off books at other libraries. So let's say, for example, you work in Parma. You'd be able to drop off Webster books over there, and they would find their way home to Webster because of our cooperation in that system. It really is an excellent system. The other thing that they do is they are able to provide internet at a 90% discount. So we are able to afford the high-speed broadband access we have because of our membership in that system. It's really phenomenal. So a little bit more about the library. We have 45,000 square feet here in the plaza. We have about 64 employees. We've got a little over 200,000 holdings. If you're doing the math again, we got about half of that are physical stuff. So that's the books, the DVDs, etc. 38% of that is online collections, ebooks, audiobooks, Hoopla subscriptions, things like that. And then we've got 12%. We've got a handful of other things as well, like video games and experience kits, including like a GoPro kit if you wanted to do something there. And this number I'm really excited about, we had 14,000 visits in March. When I was giving a similar talk to a town board workshop, we were around the 10,000 rate or range in February. This is a great number of recovery. So we saw 4,000 more people come through our front door in March than we did in February. I'm hoping that number continues to grow and gets us back to our 2019 levels. We have a door counter. So we have a system in the vestibule that counts not only people coming and going, but it actually counts the direction that they're moving, so that we know how many people came in the front doors and how many people went out the front doors. Great question. Thank you. So I have a little introduction to do before I show you all some numbers. So first of all, we are what's called a large library in the Monroe County Library System. That means we serve over 35,000 residents. That excludes, I'm excluding in the next few slides the Rochester Public Library. The Rochester Public Library serves over 200,000 residents and has 11 locations. So I'm really trying to compare like to like by focusing on other town libraries. Again, I mentioned that their libraries, serving over 30,000 residents, not 35. And the sources for this are the 2020 census, as well as this is the annual report for libraries that every public library in the state must submit to the Department of Library Development, which is a division of the State Department of Ed. So our peers, as you might, are Greece, Irondequoit, Henrietta, us, Webster, Fairport, Brighton, Penfield, and Pittsford. So I'm giving you this information because I want to show you some of the work that Webster Library does, but also some of the places where we have more work to do. So first of all, here are the populations of those peer libraries. So obviously you see Greece, which is the most populous suburban area outside of Rochester, over here. And then in descending order, you have the rest of these. And again, this is the 2020 census. The only reason I'll note this again is because Pittsford recently broke the 30,000 resident mark in the 2020 census. So they have, if we were doing this, let's say a year ago or 2 years ago, we'd be ending right here. But these are our peers. So that's kind of the setting of the context, because ultimately the census or the population for many of these libraries shows how much support those libraries can draw off of. Like I mentioned, we have a $2.2 million operating budget, and this kind of shows you a comparison of how our operating expenditures pair up with our peers. So you can see here this light purple line across the middle. This is the average, right? So it's just under $200,000. And what you're looking at on the left is the absolute dollar budget right here in purple. And in the gray, this is a per capita analysis of that. So this is how much each library is budgeting per capita. And then you can see the other index over here. So for example, we'll look at Pittsford because it's easy to go here, right? We're at about a little over $40, $45 per capita here. And you can see that Webster's kind of spot on right there, right? We're right around average not only on the absolute dollar figure, but our per capita budget there as well. On our square footage, it's going to come as no surprise to many of you that we are blessed with a lot of space here. That's not to say that the building's perfect. I'll have more to say about that in a little bit. But we do have a lot of space in the library. It does mean that we're a little above average here. We are the outlier, as you can see here. But that comes with its own unique set of challenges, especially, as many of you know, we're kind of laid out in a big L, which presents challenges for myself and the staff when we're trying to run the library, because there's not great sight lines from one end of the library to the other. Excuse me. Next, I want to show you a little bit about, maybe zoom in, so to speak, of the operating budget. Salaries and wages are a large percentage of any organization's budget. And why shouldn't they be? If I didn't have the staff here today, all we would have is a warehouse. So without an investment like this, we have shelves of books. People can run in and get them. We wouldn't have programs like the one we're having today, or story times like we have on Mondays and Thursdays. But what you see here again is Webster's right around the average point, not only on the absolute dollar figure of wages, but also on the per capita analysis. So again, Webster is coming in pretty consistently benchmarking with our peers. Now, I've thrown a lot of numbers at you, and you probably didn't think you were coming to a budget talk today. So I want everybody to see our dogs. This is Arizona. This is Ellie. And they want me to tell you that they are my favorite girl. More to say about that later. You've already met her, though. So does everybody have their dopamine and oxytocin on board? Because I want to share with you a couple places where Webster has more work to do. Webster's collections, if you're a heavy library user, you probably know you can't always come in and get the book that you want off of our shelves. Here's that average line again. Here's where we are. This is how much, and I should say, and Tom gave me a great note, collections are the stuff. This is the books, the DVDs, the ebooks, the audiobooks that we collect on behalf of the residents of Webster. You can see here, this is one area where we've got a lot of work to do. And you may be wondering, I will make a note here. This was 2020 because that's the last annual report that's available to me. 2021 still being processed by the state. Webster did reduce its budget pretty dramatically in 2020. You could attribute that to the pandemic and trying to find ways to keep the library operating. However, that gray dot right there, that's where we would have been on a normal year. That's where we are this year. We are still less than half of what our peer libraries are in investing in their collections. This is one area that we are not doing ourselves a service. For every dollar of collections that we don't spend today, when we get to the future, when we get down the road, how are we going to make up for those collections that we weren't able to purchase this year or in 2020? Because this is not unusual to Webster. Many libraries went to their collections budget during the pandemic, and they're creating a gap in collections that we will have to go back and backfill for years to come, especially when we're under the average by this much. So this is one area where we have a lot of work to do. Our collections are complemented by being a part of the Monroe County Library System, and as you know, you can order things from another library, but this is a real challenge. The other reason that this is a challenge, and some of you may have heard me talk about this before, An ebook for you to buy at home may be $10. For us to buy as a library could be $30, $40, or $50. Not only is it 3 to 5, sometimes 6 times the price, but those books self-destruct after a certain number of checkouts. And as a result, we have to go back and repurchase the same material over and over and over again. This creates a huge challenge when we're already at a relatively low investment in our collections, and we have to go back and buy the same thing over and over again. Now, that's not to say that physical books don't need to be replaced every now and again. They do. However, the rate at which we have to replace physical books is greatly lower, on an order of magnitude lower, than how frequently we have to repurchase ebooks to keep up with demand. And here's the why. I mentioned we have 45,000 square feet in this library. This is where Webster's currently spending on our building and maintenance, primarily the rent we pay to be in this building. Now, we have an amazing staff that make amazing use of this building, but this is what we're spending as a community on the library. Now, you'll see one other outlier here. That's Irondequoit. The reason Irondequoit's so high is because they just built a brand new library and they're still paying the bond off. Once that bond's paid off, and every year from the year they started, this number will go down and go down. And for sake of transparency, here's Henrietta in 2020. They built a new library that opened right before then. This is where they'll be next year. So if we're looking at the 2021 report, they'll be up here where that gray dot is, because they're going to be paying off that bond and that investment in the new library. So why is it we're in a 1970s plaza, which I love this library, but why is it we're over here when so many other libraries of our peers are paying so little in comparison? It's because, aside from Fairport, they own their buildings. And even Fairport, who doesn't own their building, they're also in a plaza of a similar vintage, and they're way down here. Our per capita spend on that is almost $12 per capita on this building. Now, one could argue that maybe we could use a little less space. I think that's a fair argument. I don't necessarily want to give it up, but it's fair. But we're still paying a huge premium to be here. And there are many nuances and flavors about why that is, but this is really one of the biggest challenges we have. And this, as I showed you, is one of the places that make our collections and programs suffer, and why that we see that lower investment. So I don't mean to be a downer for everyone, but this is one of the challenges that that I think the library has known about for some time. The library board have been working on this for a long time, and we hope to see some positive change in this light. Now, I want to mention one other thing, because it's a pretty hot topic if you all are keeping up with library news. But one of those is how, like, revenue or fine revenue might be coming in. This is one of the ways that people think that libraries make money. I would argue that libraries aren't in the business of making money, and that fines aren't really a sustainable source of revenue. And I would like to point to this graph here. These are all the peers I mentioned before, and these are all of their fine revenue starting in 2010, all the way up till this year. Now, you could argue, don't count 2020. You can see the big drop-off there because of the pandemic. That's fair. But here you're seeing the larger trend of that downward slope of fine revenue. And I might point out, until 2018, none of these, actually no, RPL is not listed here. Until 2020, none of these libraries have eliminated any fines. You may have been seeing big splashy headlines like late last year. New York Public, Brooklyn, and Queens eliminated all fines for all patrons. But none of these libraries eliminated fines. This is the natural decline of fine revenue. And I point to this because this will eventually disappear, whether we do something about it or not. These fines will decline to the point of being almost not part of the budget. Excuse me one more time. Now, you all may be wondering, all right, Adam, well, how do we know how you're doing? One of the key ways to evaluate a leader of any organization is the strategic plan. And here at Webster Public Library, we have what we provide to the state, which we call the long-range plan. I would also kind of call this a strategic plan, although there are operational elements in it. In there, we've got a handful of goals, and these are not exhaustive, but I wanted to point some out. So in the short term, the board had developed these goals: to engage in ongoing staff development to address customer service gaps. Every month, a staff-led, not director-led, group goes over customer service points that either customers have told us, hey, this didn't really work out the way we wanted it to, or, you know what, we noticed this thing. A good example might be how holds fees are assessed, because right now, this week, we made a change. If an item is held by Webster, if it's our item and it's got the Webster sticker on it, we won't charge you a hold fee even if it came through a truck. And the reason being, because holds get assessed in all sorts of different ways, and we said, we got to simplify this, because people would come up to the desk and have two different experiences. And so the staff have done a really bang-up job on that. A similar one are the, oh, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. The next short-term goal was to review space usage and make recommendations. You all may have noticed, if you're regular library users, the furniture has been shuffled about quite a bit in the past month. I'm looking, month or so, 2 months. Sorry, time flies when you have a baby. But you'll see not only did the furniture get moved around, but you'll notice some signage that says quiet study, considerate study, and collaborative study. Again, that was a staff-led effort to try and reinforce some of the places that have natural cultures, little microcosms to themselves, so that people could go and get the experience they expect. Because some people want to come here and have quiet time to read, to study, to work. Other people want to come here and do tutoring or work on something collaboratively. And so we need to make sure that there's space for all of those users. Similarly, we have the goal of developing a cooperative community partnerships. I can take no credit for this. The board and the staff have been working tirelessly to kind of reach out into the community to both foster historical partnerships as well as new partnerships. And then, oh, getting ahead of myself. Spoiler! And the other short-term goal that I had noticed on my first day when I was reading the strategic plan is this one: to remove barriers to library service by going fine-free for youth materials by 2023. And I should note that the library board is currently deliberating this. We're trying to figure out what that plan looks like, and we hope to have more for that soon. But I want to mention, we aren't the first in the area to do this. I mentioned some of our peers earlier. Rochester Public went fine-free for youth material. Fairport, Parma, Irondequoit, and Pittsford are all fine-free for their youth material. And while we serve the residents of Webster, the residents of Webster may find another library suits their taste, and they have that one county, one card in their pocket. They could go to any other library in the county and get what they need, and maybe that's no fines on youth material. So we're really cognizant of the fact that we want our folks here. We want to make sure that we're serving you all. And so this is one of the ways that the board has kind of looked at removing barriers to access, among many others. We also have some long-term goals: defining space needs for seating, workspace, meeting rooms, and collections. Again, I mentioned the staff-led group that worked on the furniture. This work will continue for a long time, and I mentioned some of the space challenges that we have in terms of the investment. Compare and benchmark with other libraries. I think I showed you some of that today, and there's much more if anybody wants to get into the really deep analytics with me. Develop cooperative partnerships. Just today, Larry Wall from the Central School District came by to drop off the Central School District survey. We continue to work with various community partnerships. The American Red Cross has been coming here for many years, and I take no credit from that. Our staff have been excellent there. We worked with the AARP recently to do tax preparation here that just finished up earlier this month. And then expand fundraising and granting efforts. And this is really to try and help support our friends in our foundation, who are the nonprofits that support us. And I'd be remiss not to mention the fact that We're looking at some new options, including possibly on June 23rd at Charles Sexton Park, that is the park formerly known as North Ponds. You might, for the price of a small donation to one of those wonderful nonprofits, be able to dunk the director. So if y'all are interested, come on out and take a swing. So I've taken you all through a lot of some of the work that I see that we have to do and some of the work that we've been doing. I know many of you wouldn't be here if you weren't already familiar with our excellent staff, programs, collections, but I wanted to give you a little bit of what we're looking at in terms of the work we have ahead. But I know some of you also probably just want to know what I'm reading. So I wanted to point out just a couple things I'm enjoying. Over here I've got Crib Sheet. This is a data-driven guide to parenthood. You may have noticed I'm into numbers, so sure enough. Jubilee is a cookbook I received. It won a James Beard Award. Toni Tipton-Martin is no lightweight. She's just absolutely amazing author. I really recommend this book right now. Another cookbook I'm working with is The Treasures of the Mexican Table that I received as a gift. That is absolutely stellar. If you are into cooking, there's a new Julia Child show on HBO, Julia, this is what I'm watching when I'm feeding my baby late at night, as well as 1883. I think I mentioned I'm reading Fool's Quest, and then here are a couple of the board games that I'm playing right now. Because yes, I work in a library, and I am a dork. So thank you all for listening. There is my favorite girl. So I will pause there, or stop there, and I just want to say, if you appreciate the work that the library has done, and you would like to continue to support our work, whether it be through time or resources, I strongly encourage you to look into the Friends of the Webster Public Library or the Foundation of the Webster Public Library. Without their love and support, many of these things would not be possible. So thank you all for coming, and I will take any questions y'all may have. Sure.
I've had problems getting e-books because of the budget issue, okay? But I found out as a resident of New York State, I can join the New York Public Library.
Yeah.
And I get access to a lot of books a lot quicker than I can through the Monroe County Library system.
You can.
Is that because I'm a resident of New York State and New York State is funding that public library?
That's right.
And if
So,
New York State is public net funding the library, why can't we get money from New York State to fund this library?
well, we do get some money from New York State, but New York Public Library is the largest public library system in the nation, and so they get a lot of funding. With that funding, they do open up, I've got my own, you can get a library card, and actually Brooklyn Public also did the same thing, where they opened up the ability for teens to be able to get their own library card for ebooks. I bring this out to show that, like, this is, in my mind, a good solution to a problem I'm a little embarrassed to admit. The embarrassment is that we don't have the money to support the ebook collections that I think our residents need, because there are long wait times. But this is a good option, because I know that without this, you may not be able to get to that book. So we do get some funding from the state, but they do receive a much greater share of that funding. Yeah. Why we can't get more? I continue to fight every year for and advocate for libraries and the library budget. Recently, we got some good news from the state where they have increased the library aid by about $2 million. We'll only see a fraction of that, but we're moving in the right direction. And we couldn't do that without the support of our elected officials. So we're going the right way. Yeah.
Just another part of that equation is the imbalance you referenced with the cost of ebooks the publishers charge us versus the person on the street. Until there's a court decision that pushes those publishers to that being an unfair practice, we're going to be stuck to some degree in this quandary. At some point, the court's going to push them to correct that imbalance, I think, but it's a long haul in the courts.
I would hope that there is a solution to this, because in the 60s or 70s, there was a court case that I believe must have been settled because I can't find a ruling on it, where publishers would charge libraries 2 or 3 times the list price of a children's book. And again, the rationale is, well, more people are seeing it than just one. Now, I have to assume that there was some sort of settlement to that because there's no verdict on the case that I could find, and we don't pay 2 or 3 times the price of those children's books as anybody else. In fact, many libraries, when they run book clubs, drive sales of those books. So while I think as libraries, we really see the ecosystem of authorship and intellectual property in a positive light, and we're willing to pay for good content. I don't mean to say that. Good content is worth paying for. An author puts a lot of work into writing those books. But paying 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times the price is not where we need to go. And whether or not the courts will decide that or not, I don't know. Unfortunately, the landmark, I think the biggest case that we saw was the bill in Maryland, but unfortunately that was a non-starter. So we'll continue to see how that goes. Yeah, Peg.
Wasn't there a push at one point to boycott some of the publishers and not do any of their books to see if that would?
Yes, there was, Peg. Did you know that I helped coordinate that? So I was going to say, were you paying this? So yes, in 2019, there was a publisher who not only was having libraries pay 4, 5, 6 times the price on their hot titles, and this is a publisher who I won't name here because they reversed the decision. But not only were they charging an exorbitant price, they were also delaying when libraries could buy them. Libraries could not purchase them for 6 to 8 weeks after the release date. Some of you may know, we get new releases a few days before they come out so that we can have them on the shelf for you the day they come out. But they were going to delay that. That would have cost the library system in Monroe County collectively 8 times what we are currently investing into their titles. And so we organized and agreed we wouldn't purchase any of their titles until they reversed that decision. They did. I don't know exactly why. They said it was because they were trying to support libraries during the pandemic, but ultimately libraries across the nation boycott them. And I think we spoke with our dollars. Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that, Peg. Anybody else? Yeah.
Are any of the donated books kind of scanned for placement on the shelf as an extra copy or something you didn't have that you wanted?
Occasionally, yeah. I mean, so we get all sorts of donations, and we work with our friends of the Webster Public Library to really figure out, and our librarians to figure out, is it something that should go on the shelves? But I would, kind of be disingenuous if I said most of them went on the shelves. Most of them go to our friends. And our friends do the lobby sale. They do the semi-annual sale, the big sale that's coming up in May. They also have a couple of really cool programs. There's one called Sustainable Shelves, which works with one of our vendors to give us credit back for new books on those books that maybe the friends are like, well, we don't know if we could sell this, but this book vendor is able to do that for us. And they also help us identify those things that maybe need to be recycled. And we can work with that vendor because the sad thing is that we can't just take a hardcover book and throw it in the recycle bin. Those won't get recycled. So we work with that company to kind of get credit and also find maybe a more eco-friendly way to retire those books that maybe aren't quite fit for resale or shelving. Yeah, Robin.
Yeah, I'm the head of the sorting room and lobby sale, and I can say one of the things that we offer to the library first is any donations that we get that are copyrighted the current year are set aside, and the library can choose to put them on their shelves.
Were you able to hear that? Anybody else? Yeah.
I have a question for your mother.
I'm a Webster boy. Go for it.
Thank you, first of all, for having Adam. But I would like to know, is he your favorite child?
I can't answer that.
My brother may be watching. Any other questions today? Yeah, Ginny.
Okay, as liaison of the Webster Library and a new town council, we just adore, and we're so proud of your son, because I have two boys too, and I adore both my boys, equally. You do a wonderful job, and all the staff
Thank you for those kind words, Ginny. And like I said, it takes, I guess you could say it takes a village, or a town in this case. My thanks really go to the staff here have been so welcoming. I can't tell you how amazing they've been. These folks who may have never met me before threw my wife and I the most lovely baby shower. And, the board here has been absolutely so supportive. So thank you for saying that, Ginny. But I really, this has been a really humbling experience in the best way possible. So thank you.
So I'm just going to say thank you to everybody who came. We have oodles of cookies. Some of you made them. Please do not leave without getting a drink and a cookie. There's some here, but there's lots out here. Please help yourself and come and chat with Adam more if you'd like, or any of the board members, or any of us. We're all wearing our t-shirts and have name tags on. We're the staff. But anyway, thanks again for coming. We appreciate it. Thank you.